All right. The debut on NXT. I'm going to say this right now. This is not going to be long because there's not much here. As much as you'll say, dude, there's a huge amount. No, it wasn't. But that doesn't mean it was bad. I want to make this clear. For what we saw on the show, it is continuation of what we had last week. But honestly, when you look at what we have here, it was condensed down. This is like a trial of how they want to book the show. But that doesn't mean it was bad. It was not. But I am going to tell you that you're going to see them start doing some really weird stuff because they got to figure out how they want to do this on the CW compared to USA. That's how I feel like it's going to be. Opening. We got HBK and we got Triple H. Just to make it very clear, HBK came out and he made it very clear just how special this was with his bow legs and his hat where his eyes on. Like that. I'm not making fun of HBK. The guy gave a lot. He learned a lot. He was a bitch, a pain in the ass, but also he learned his lesson. But let's make this very clear. When you see this show, this is not fully HBK. Let's make this clear. He did not need to show up, and I'm talking about Triple H. Yes, people say, oh, Triple H showed up. It made it even greater, and it did. But did he need to show up? No. No. You could have let HBK just come out on his own and introduce NXT as it was. There wouldn't have been a problem with it. But they had to bring out Triple H. Because since he's the face of the entire franchise of TKO WWE, they're going to throw him out there. Do I believe he needed to be out there? No. And this is something I know is going to be controversial. Not everyone's going to agree with it. Because if JD did a review of the debut of NXT, he's going to be fine that Triple H showed up. But if you're going to say that he is the vice president of creative for NXT, I would rather see HBK do this than Triple H. As much as the brand is now all HBK, well, technically it is HBK who's been running it generally, not Triple H, not Vince anymore. It is him. They don't believe that he's enough draw power. So that's why they brought out Triple H. And I believe that was a mistake. Because if you're going to make this mean something, I truly believe that HBK should be the face of that brand. I'm sorry. Everyone won't agree, but that's what I'm saying. Opening. Julia versus Roxanne Perez. Now, very good match. Some sloppiness. And I do believe it's because they're not familiar with each other. Let's make this clear. Julia and Roxanne Perez, as far as I know, before she came into to NXT, had never met each other in real life in a real match. They never did. We got Reality of Wrestling, we got Shimmer, we got as well as New Japan Pro Strong and New Japan Pro Wrestling. You already know this. That's what we got. But, well, not New Japan Pro Wrestling, but other places. But you get my point. They never met with each other, so it was a little sloppy at first. There were a few moments it was sloppy, but I can easily say it was a very good match. And it's mainly due to the fact of how well Roxanne Perez has seasoned as a pro wrestler. Because as much as Julia is a good wrestler, she's not bad. You have to have a good partner as well. So it really shows that Roxanne Perez is ready for the main roster. She is developed enough to be ready. And look what we got. Julia basically gets screwed over by a returning Cora Jade, which we hadn't seen in a while. Good. Now we got a little bit of possible friends getting back together again. And there's nothing wrong with that because Julia needs a challenge. There was no way Julia was going to win. She's not meant to win. She was just meant to be introduced to the fans in Chicago. It needed to be happening. Next. Lola Vice. Well, I know I can do the street fight next, but I'm going to do Lola Vice and Miss Parker versus the Fatal Influence. Henley as well as James. JC. well as JC James. The reason I'm doing this now is because of how they're structuring this odd couple of Jada Parker and Lola Vice. That's what they're doing. They're doing this weirdness between them to see how people are going to perceive them. Who is the heel here? Who is the face? Or more than anything, how can they work together to take care of Fatal Influence? Now, here's where it gets a little bit of a twist, because we got a little bit of Kiana Jordan knowing full well that these two were having problems, so she called for backup, which she called for the current tag champions of Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. And next week we're having a match between Fatal Influence, the tag champs, and the North American champion. But then where are they going to go with Lola Vice and Jade Parker? Because, yeah, they're giving something for Kiana Jordan to deal with when it comes to Fatal Influence. Yeah, they're giving a little bit of something so we can see the development of these two. But how are they going to develop it? Because it looks like the damn odd couple. And the question is, when you talk about Felix Unger and, oh my goodness, I forgot his name. It's been Oscar. I can't remember his last name. If you've ever seen the old version of the Odd Couple, that's what we got with Oscar and Felix. That's what we got here. It's like someone who's neat compared to someone who's sloppy. Someone who's a pain in the ass compared to someone who can be extremely obnoxious. A whole bunch of crazy stuff. So how they're going to develop it, that's going to be a big question. Next, the street fight of Wesley and Zachary Wentz. Let's make this very clear. I'm going to be honest with you guys. From the very moment the street fight was announced by Wesley, I knew Wes was not going to lose because it was going to be under WWE. There was no way he was going to job here. There was no way. It's not the point that it's fair. It's the point of how they structured this entire situation between TNA and TKO WWE, which is from NXT. There is very little that you're going to see from TNA. You'll get Jordan Grace, yeah. You'll get Joe Henley, yeah. But when it comes to the lower wrestlers, you will not see them win much. In fact, you will see them job a lot. Like Rosemary has jobbed now 3 times in singles, 1 time in tag, and won 1 tag. That's the deal. Everyone else, they're not getting anywhere when it comes to being on NXT. TNA is a bit different, but to a certain extent, not. Because, and I'm making this clear, you look at TNA, they're getting the lowest hanging fruit. That's what they're getting. But when you look at NXT, they're getting very established wrestlers that are well known and many of them very popular. And in many cases, if they don't job, like Jordan Grace and Joe Henry, everyone else will job. So this is what we got. The match was fine, but I'm not going to lie. In a street fight, you bring out a board. This is the thing that pissed me off. I'm not saying the match was bad. It was good. I liked it. But I'm going to be honest here. You bring out a long board that normally would have barbed wire on it, and there is no damn barbed wire on it. And it looks stupid them dragging out a damn blank board with no damn barbed wire on it. It was stupid. I hated that. There was no problem with the chairs, no problem with the candlesticks, no problem with the cans. Nothing was wrong with that. But you pulling out that damn board was stupid. If there was no barbed wire on it, it made no damn sense. They should never did it. But since they want to be, PG-13 or something, they're trying to be cool about it, it was stupid. They should have just kept doing the work with the chairs, didn't have that piece of wood, which looked so stupid. Moving on. The title match. Actually, before we get to the title match, let's talk about Miz TV, Tony D'Angelo, and Obafemi. I'm going to tell you this. Did it feel very rehearsed? Yes. Oba is not really good on the mic yet. It is obvious he's been working on it, but you can tell there are certain parts that either he was given to talk about, and he cut it off, and he didn't know how to deliver it the right way. Or he was allowed to at least work on what he wanted, and it looked like he was missing something. Then look at Tony D'Angelo, who is very well polished. The guy is at the point now where Tony D could actually go to the main roster like Wes Lee. Oba is not ready, but Tony is. Tony D'Angelo is ready to go to the main roster. He could leave everyone behind and go to the main roster, and he will work out. And when you hear how they're talking about who is the one that is nervous, who's the one who's afraid, you've gotten broken, it was okay. And The Miz tried to make it mean something. And I'm not going to lie, I was not interested in Miz TV. I didn't want to see Miz TV because they use it so much. But I understand in this context they needed to do it because it was the debut. They wanted to make the North American Championship mean something. It's understandable they did that. But I'm going to be honest, I didn't want to see Miz TV there. There would have been better to do a contract signing. I would have liked the contract signing more than Miz TV. But it would have been the same delivery. We would have still had Obafemi, who just seemed like he kind of has the understanding to do promos, but it's still very early for him. He doesn't do promos all the time, and he still needs work. And then you got Tony D, who does know how to do the promos. He was well polished, he talked well, and it made sense both ways. But it is obvious that Tony had to help him a little bit because he still needs some work. This is just me, you guys down below. Video package for Devon Evans and Randy Orton for next week. And I'm going to tell you this. Do I feel anything from this match? No. This is supposed to spotlight Devon Evans, but I do believe this is too soon for him to be spotlighted by RKO. I'm sorry. It just doesn't feel right. It feels rushed. Like I said, it's supposed to be rushed because they want to replace Ricochet as quickly as possible, and they're trying to push him as quickly as possible because they believe that he could mean something. He could be the new Ricochet, and they're trying to see if he can handle it, and they're pushing him. They're pushing him hard. That's why they're giving him Randy Orton. They did not need to give him Randy. They could have given Randy Orton somebody else that I believe would have been someone better. But no, this is what we got. I don't believe this is the wise thing to do, but I can understand why they're doing it. Finally, we got the title match. CM Punk, Trick, and the Ethan Page. Now, I did not say anything about the new titles for NXT because they're replacing the old ones because those were the old 2.0 titles. We now got new titles since we now gone to the CW. And I'm fine with it. It was time to get rid of the old 2.0 titles. As far as I remember, they are still the 2.0 titles. They have not been replaced since the 2.0 titles had been introduced. It was time. They needed to replace them, and now they have. So next to the women's champion, who managed to retain with Cora Jade's help, we get this. And we got a match that was a very good match between Trick and pretty much Ethan Page. And CM Punk calling it down the middle. I didn't expect him to go against what he said. It is a clean, straightforward 101 match. If you don't know what that means, it means it's formulaic. As formulaic as you can for a debut on a new network. They didn't want to go anything outside the norm when it came to the match itself, and CM Punk doing what he did. They didn't want to get Drew being seen. They didn't want to get anything from Bad Blood about that. They just wanted to make it as clean as possible, having CM Punk just do his job, and guess what? Trick won. And it's understandable why. I've said it before and I'll say it again. There is no reason why Trick Williams needs to move to the main roster yet. He's not ready. Particularly don't have room for him. So him getting the championship back was not a problem. I knew he was going to get it, but I thought it would be at a pay-per-view or PLE. But they decided to do it here at the debut. Debuting new titles, and they gave it to him. Which is no problem. I'm glad they did. But when you look at the situation of what we got in this debut of the CW, it was very, very tame, formulaic. It was, we don't want to go too far, even though we want to make sure there's a good effort. And there was nothing wrong with that. I'm glad they had that mentality. The crowd in Chicago was loud and very full. And that was a great thing. The matches were all good. And that's the best thing there. This was a good show. It was not something out of the norm, not going over the top, but it was what they needed. They needed to introduce the company to the CW and to the fans of the CW, and it was fine. But it's just me. Peace.